Hi, and welcome to Cosmonaut Cards. My name is Jake. Today, we'll be going through a stack of cards and looking for what might grade into a PSA 10. Going to be going over what to look for in a card, what's a good card to send in, what cards do you want to debate sending in. Going to go through the whole process of inspecting, cleaning, and packaging up the cards. And then we'll do, in a separate video, I'll do how to actually log them on PSA's website and go from there. So today, just going to kind of hang out, turn on some tunes, and check out some cards. All right. So first, you want to kind of have an idea of the types of cards that you'd want to send in. So you of course can send in just regular base cards into PSA. However, just keep in mind your return rate is going to be lower and lower, especially if the card is insanely popular or common. So like a common paper Ellie De La Cruz rookie card, there's probably a million of them. What I personally would debate is I would just go on eBay and check sold listings for whatever card you have. So let's say you have an orange O'Neill Cruz Cosmic from 2024. You go on there and you see how much they're selling for, or how much they've sold for, and then you can check to see if there's any PSA 10 or 9 sales. So just as an experiment, I'll try to share my screen. Of course, it's not going to work. Give me a second and I can share it. All right, so now that you can hear me and see my screen here, we have, so Topps, I search for Topps Chrome. Let's do orange. So O'Neill Cruz Orange Lunar Eclipse from Topps Chrome. We have one sold for $30. That's an orange to 25, orange galactic refractor, orange to 25. So let's see, orange galactic to 25. So we have a raw card that sold for $30. See if we can find a comparable or the same card here in a PSA 10. Of course not. Let's see here. Well, let's see if this will work. So Shohei's Orange Galactic to 25 PSA 10 sold for $660. And let's see if we can find a sale for, and that's not an auto, that's just the Orange Galactic to 25. So let's see if we can find a raw card. So PSA 10 was $660, and the raw, oh wow, there's an $850. There's a $300 that's also graded. Can't even find raw ones. Wow. Anyway, so we can try a different card. Let's just try like an Ellie De La Cruz. De La Cruz. So the Nucleus Refractor sold for $100. See if we can find a PSA 10. PSA sold for $245. So it went from 100 to 245. So there you go. So that's what I would do. So any card you're trying to look up, go and see if you can find some comps. And some either the exact card you're looking for, or let's say you're looking at like a Jordan Lawler rookie card. Find a comparable rookie from last year. Someone who's in that really, really good tier, but maybe not the top tier, and see what comparable sales there might have been, or look for that exact card to see what you can find. But generally, keep in mind that grading fees are going to be about $20-25, especially if you go through PSA. So that definitely plays into it. Sorry, just making sure my mic worked. Keep in mind the grading fees going there. So I would look to like double my money, and I would want to be really sure the cards that I send in are going to grade well. So, which brings me to the main point of this show. Right now I only have one PSA submission in. So that doesn't necessarily make me an expert, but I did do a ton of research on it. I wrote a chapter of a book on it. And I will show you what I did. My first submission, I sent in 5 cards. I got 3 9s and 2 10s. So ideally a higher 10 rate, but everything I sent in was a 9 or higher. Let me show you real quick. So I made a couple videos on this, so I apologize if you've seen these before, but these are the cards that I sent in to PSA for my first submission. I couldn't see anything on this. There is a bit of it. Looks like there might be a little surface scratch, but I can't tell if that's on the case or not. This guy gemmed up. And Adley Rutschman to 5, got a 9. This Ellie gemmed. And I have this bad boy. I really wish this guy gemmed up, but he got a 9. So I've done pretty well in my one submission. And it's because I was super, super picky about the cards that I chose to submit. So I'm just going to go through a stack. We're going to go through. I'll show you what I'm looking for. And then I'll set these aside, and then we'll move on to the next step, is actually getting a real close inspection, cleaning them, that kind of stuff. So there's a couple different steps involved, a weeding out process, if you will. If you have multiples of the same card, compare them to one another. Check the centering, and make sure that you're submitting, the best representations of any card that you have, especially if you have multiples there. So I'll just grab a card. I'm a huge Andrew McCutcheon fan. I'd be happy to grow my collection of PSA 10s and add some more Kutch. So first thing I want to do is take it out of the sleeve. And right now I'm just looking at the surface. So I do a quick glance at the surface, nothing crazy at first. And then I look at each corner. So you can kind of hold something behind it. I'm just looking for sharpness. If I see any white edges, if there's color like an orange or yellow, and if I see white instead of that color. But those corners look pretty good. And then my last kind of glance, there's 3 glances. A quick glance at the surface, quick glance at the corners, and quick glance at the centering. The centering just off the bat, it looks pretty good, top and bottom and left and right. But I do have a handy tool. This is a centering tool, or center grading tool. You can just look it up on eBay or Google or Amazon or whatever. And you hold the card behind it. Make sure you put it in the thick black lines there. Make sure she's all lined up. And then you find the corner line and you follow it around. So I'm just trying to center it from my angle here and not yours. Okay, and then so like the border looks great, perfectly right on 3 on the left, on the top left, and on the bottom. Man, that looks pretty centered to me. That looks perfect centering to me. So right off the glance, this card looks good to go on to the next stage. So that's all I'm going to be doing at the very first, is just going through, and because it has to look good right off the bat. If you find a flaw along the way, just move on. Just set it aside and move on. If it's if you really want to, you can set it aside and see what you can clean off of there. But this first test, again, is just a glance. So very first glance, just at any surface issues. I'm looking for print lines or scratches, smudges. That looks pretty good off the bat. Chrome or the corners. Corners look pretty good, and off the glance, centering looks good. And centering looks good. All right, so I'm 2 for 2 for this first step here. So I'm gonna start to pick it up a little bit here. I'm not gonna fly through it. Taking my time here this afternoon. Again, I'm just looking quick glances here, looking at the surface. Anything. Surface looks good. Corners. Top left corner looks weird. Corners might not cut it. Centering, it's definitely thicker on the left just off the bat. So right away I know that I'm not going to pursue this card. The centering is off. P.S. I used to have a little higher margins. I used to accept 60-40. Now I think they're 45-55. And I can see that it's thicker on the left than it is the right. That immediately would tell me that that it's a no-go. So any cards, even though I might really want them to gem, I might really want to send them in, if they're a no-go, just don't waste your time on them. So just glancing here. Surface looks fine, but centering is off. It's definitely thicker on the right. You can tell. And I'll put it under the centering tool so you can see what it looks like when something's off. So again, I put the card up to the big, thick outside border, and then I look at the inside lines here to see where the border of the card is. So that's the top of 3, following it around. That's on top of 3. 3 here is into the card quite a bit, and on here is on the line. So I can tell that it's further this way. So it's definitely thicker on the left. You can probably tell just looking at it from your angle. Centering looks okay. And generally in order I go centering, corners, and then surface. This looks good for first glance. So I didn't specifically mention this, but I am also looking at the edges, especially with these hollow foils. The edges can be really tricky. This top edge looks great, but if you look at this side edge, you can tell the foil kind of bends back a little bit and leaves a mark there, right above my thumbnail there. So unfortunately, that surface or corner edge there isn't going to work, so we'll move on. That is thicker on the right than it is on the left. Looks like it's thinner on top than it is on bottom, but that's still not awful. That corner isn't perfect. Okay. Top right corner is not perfect, so we will move forward. Maybe a hair thicker on the right. Yeah, thicker on the right. Sometimes it's hard to tell with the Mojo or Chrome cards. But I'm sure my centering tool would have sussed that out as well. And before I might have cut a little slack, like I said, PSA standards changed a little bit. So now if it doesn't look perfect, I'm just not even going to bother. That looks pretty good off the bat. That looks pretty good off the bat. I will set it up to the check it out side. I think this was the inspiration for the Dancing Dodgers parallels in Series 1, because it's his patented dance pose. Corners aren't quite perfect, unfortunately. That'd be a nice one to gem. Yeah, I just see glimpses of white at the very edges of the corners there, so not gonna work. So I'm looking at the corners, the edges. They look pretty good. I see a little surface dent here. I see if the camera can pick it up. Yeah, you can see it right there. Right by my thumbnail. That's the main thing, but it's a pretty big, it looks like thumbnail mark in that, so that's no good. It's a shame, you know, how many thumbs actually touch that card. Probably not too many, but these blues are tough with the corners and edges. Maybe. We'll see. That looks pretty good off the first glimpse there. Centering looks good. Maybe a little thicker on top than it is on bottom. Actually, by a bit there. Yeah, centering top to bottom is not great, so I won't bother. I'm not sure how rigid they are on the top to bottom centering. If it's any different than, you know, vertical than it is horizontal, but refractor of Jackson Merrill looks pretty crisp. The bottom edge is a little ridged. That's a shame. The left corner looks great. Top looks great. See if I can show you what I'm talking about. The bottom edge is just a little... Man, I don't know. That is close. That's close. I'll sleeve it up. We'll put it in the passes first inspection. See, we're about halfway through my cards here. Once we get through, then we'll move on to the next stage where I really inspect them and clean them, and we go from the next steps to go from there. Corners look great. Sorry for bumping the camera. There's your bingo. Alright, so centering looks pretty good. Corners look great. And surface looks really good. Vertical and horizontal maybe a little thicker on the top, but well, let's see if the centering tool, if we can tell. So put the top of the card at the thick border. So the edge border's on right on 3. Yeah, it's definitely higher on top. Yeah, by quite a bit there. That's a bummer. And as you're going through, you might see schmutz on the cardboard. Now this has some edge issues right off the bat, so. Thicker on the right. Just by a hair. Surface looks good. Corners look good. That might be fine. I'll move that along. So, you know, you're going to have an idea about roughly how many cards you want to send in. Let's say your idea is roughly 5. You're going to send in just based on money. You know, you're going to spend $100 on, unless you're sending in a really big card. Let's say you want to spend about $100, so you pick 4 or 5 cards. Go through like I'm doing now and just here are all the cards that are even maybe worth doing it. Here's a stack. Go through them, divide them up, and then whittle it down. So you might have out of this stack we're doing here, I might have 15 that I really look at, that I really inspect. And let's say 10 of those pass. Well, I might not send in all 10, but I'll take a look. Okay, this one is going to be higher return, or I'm really curious about this one. This is a higher value card. You know, you can kind of go from there as well. So some of these cards I can, like if this Dylan Cruz goes by, and even if this is the best card, best looking card, I might send in the other ones because they're higher value. You know what I'm saying? The really problem on these hollow foils are the edges. Yeah, it just doesn't look perfect straight line. That'd be a cool one to gem though. The edges look really good. That one looks really good. Maybe a corner issue, but I'll inspect that further. That looks pretty good. Sometimes you can moderately alleviate a corner issue if that's all there is to it. You know, you want to pick and choose what you want to. You know, if there are little imperfections that you let slide, you kind of want to pick and choose which ones. You might be able to minimize some. But like I said, I personally wouldn't send anything that I was sure wasn't going to hit a 9 or 10. Just because after that, you don't really get your return on investment. This looks really good right off the bat. The centering on these is tough. But it's a nice card. It's a prospect card for Ellie out of 22 Bowman Chrome. So this is our stack of possibles so far. This would be a sweet card to gem up. This is the... I think it's that... It looks red, but it can't be. That doesn't make sense. It's the 75. So Stars of MLB. It's red or orange. I'm colorblind. There's another one for your bingo. The corners look great. It's hard to tell on the surface of this, but it looks okay. All right. I'll pass it on to the next. That'd be a cool one to gem. You guys got to think about, you know, what it looked like in the slab of whatever you're sending in for. So there's Tag, there's Beckett, there's PSA. Tag is like the new up-and-comer, and they have kind of a clear slab, top slab that just looks really, really crisp. There's SGC, which is the tux, the black and white. There is a little print line. I might be able to buff those out. So this would get a pass for now. And the next one, see if there's like surface scratches or little marks or something like that, you can try to clean them. So I would let those issues slide to the next round. Corner's not perfect. Bottom left corner, you can see white. That's a shame. That'd be a good one to gem. See, as you can see, you know, some of these, see, definitely thicker on the right. Dang. They'd be nice cards to gem up. They're, you know, the best rookies of an excellent rookie class, and Churio and Merrill and Caminero and Langford, De La Cruz. So you're looking for good rookies in a parallel. It doesn't have to be a crazy parallel. Like golds are, you know, they're high numbered, but you know, the lower numbered, the better. Board. This one is, you know, just a common insert, but they're cool. They're throwback inserts, and they look great. He's a stud. He's, you know, coming off of that incredible rookie class, so he's the sophomore to watch there. Surface looks pretty good. Corners, edge, maybe an edge looks a little rough, but the corners look okay, so I'll pass it for now. There's Junior Caminero. It's thicker on the top than it is the bottom. I don't know if you can tell, but it is. So we'll pass. Maybe a tad thicker on the left than it is the right, but let's see. Checking the edges here, the hollow foil. And that looks pretty good. I think it might be a tad thicker on the left. We'll see if I can tell with my grading tool. These are the ones that you want to try to use the tool on, the ones that are just so close. Three is on the, let's see, the outside of this side, and the, yeah, it's right on. So the 3 line here, the solid black 3 line, is right on the white line of the border of the card on this side, and on this side it's a bit on the outside of the line itself. But that is really close. I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna say it passes for now. think we looked at that one. Only have a handful more here. And then we'll move on to the next section. There's another LE prospect card. Definitely thicker on the, like way thicker on the left than the right, so that's a shame as well. So this is just a common Bowman insert, but it has both LE and Junior on it. So to the top rookies here in the same card. Plus it has red in there. So it would, of course, look good in a PSA slab. Edges look pretty good. Corners look good. Surface looks pretty good. That looks good to me. It's got two little watermarks here next to the heel of his bat. Might be able to buff those out, but I don't think so. I'll set this aside and we'll try to buff those out. That looks pretty good. And our final card here. Maybe some surface issues we can try to wipe off, but centering looks good. Corners and edges look good. All right. So now I have this stack, which I'm going to lovingly put back in the rest of my collection of cards I don't think will gem. Now we're going to, upon closer inspection here, take a look at these cards, and I'll pick a couple that I would want to, I'll demonstrate how to sleeve it up to send in to PSA. Let's see here. So I'm just going to take a look at a couple cards here, specifically to get up close and personal with here. Okay, so I have this stack now of cards. I have a couple LEs that I set off aside, and I have these cards. So the next thing, just for time's sake, I'm just gonna say right now, hey, I'm only gonna send in about 5 or so, and so I'm gonna cut. Like, these are top contenders. I really want to, if any of these look perfect, they're highly contending to be sent in. These ones will be in like my second stack. I wouldn't necessarily want to send any of these in ahead of any of those others. So I'm just going to set this stack aside, and this will be for another day. And you can do that too. Now, if you go through this stack of your prime candidates and you don't find 4 or 5 that you want to send in, that's when you move on to the next stack. But that's how I do it to break it up, and it works for me. So we've looked at centering. You know how to do that. Next, we're going to act as if we're going to send it in. So I'll do further inspection. For these purposes, I will wear some gloves. And I'll get my sleeves ready, because if it looks good, I'm going to just get it ready to submit to PSA. I have a small stack of cards here that I've already gotten ready that I'll show you now. These were partial from the last time I did this. I cleaned some up and got some ready to send out. I just haven't sent them out yet. So here's an example. Centering's great. Surface look great. We have a Perdomo Auto. An awesome Eduardo Beltre Blue Reptilian. Of course, the Skeens Cosmic. I don't know. There's this upper right-hand corner. I don't know if that's perfect, but it's too big of a card to not try to gem. And then I love the look of these blue parallel throwbacks here. We have an Ellie Jr. and Jackson. I'd love to have that trio all gem up. So those are cards that I've already prepared. They do recommend that you send them in these rigid, what are they called? Card Saver. That's what they are. Card Saver. I use Ultra Pro Rigid Card Saver. So I have, for my tools for this step, I have a clean microfiber cloth that after every card I'm going to shake out to try to get the dust and schmutz off of. I am going to wear some gloves. I usually don't wear gloves when handling cards, but especially since we have chrome cards, you don't want to leave a big nasty thumbprint, fingerprint on any of the shiny surfaces of the cards you send in. So I've already checked this guy for centering and for corners. Now I'm just going to really close up, make sure that everything looks perfect on it. And I'm going to do the surface last. So right now I'm looking at the edges, the corners. Looks like there might be a little divot by the OF. Other than that, it looks really clean, but there is a divot next to the OF. So what I would also do too, there's like a little dot there. It's probably just dust. So you use your microfiber, and generally I would have an extremely clean surface. I'm going to set this down on a flat surface and use your microfiber to go over. So I don't like to hold the card and apply any pressure if I can help it. You know, you can lightly do this, but if it's a big smudge or something like that. And then you want to look at your tops, your creases. Make sure there's no stray little tiny little cardboard chunks sticking out of your edges there. So I do mark this as having a divot. I'd say this would get probably a 9 at best. So I'm going to set this aside and not send it in right now. However, if I go through and all the rest of them look like they get 9s at best too, then I would reevaluate and maybe send this guy in. It's a very small divot, but I think it would stop it from gemming. Okay. So again, I'm shaking out my microfiber. Just lightly going over the surface here, and I'm barely applying any pressure at all. Just kind of making sure there's no schmutz on it. I'm going to go over these corners, edges. Top right corner doesn't quite look perfect. So I'm kind of going to put it in the same pile as the other one. Like if the other ones don't look better than that, then maybe I'll revisit it. This is a very clean card. It is slightly bowed. The corners, however, look really great. That is a clean card. So, that's a card that I want to take to the next step in the process. So I'm going to grab a brand new penny sleeve, not the one I just took it out of. I'm going to just quick take a look, make sure there's nothing on the penny sleeve. I'm looking for hair, dust, dog hair, stray particles. I'm going to very gently sleeve it. Inspect it again. Looks pretty good. So once you have this sleeved up, you get your card saver, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at my card saver. There is some dust on this card saver. I'm going to just make sure that it's on the outside and not the inside. There we go. And that looks pretty clean. And again, you don't want a big piece of lint or anything in there. Maybe it falls off by the time they take it out of the, maybe it sticks to the sleeve or whatever, but maybe it sticks to the card or it gets stuck to the guy's hand and it falls on the card. You just don't want it to be, like I see there's a little bit of cardboard right where my finger was. I'm going to try to get that off of there before I send it in. Again, it's on the outside. It shouldn't impact it, but who knows what impacts it. You want to introduce as few variables as possible. But once you have it in your penny sleeve and you have a clean card saver, you put it in there. Now that's going to be ready to go. I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to just quickly go through my other cards here, see if there are any more that I would like to send in with this batch. So this one has possibly a print line or a scratch up at the very top to the left of his helmet. Nope, can't get it off. It won't gem. That's a bummer. That one I think would cause it to get like an 8, like a surface issue like that, like a print line or big scratch or something like that. If you're talking about a small little dinger or maybe an imperfect corner, you can maybe take a gamble on those. But surface issues, like scratches and print lines and stuff, just aren't going to work. These two marks here that look like they could be part of the design, but they look like they're not. Like I'm sure they are, but it's throwing me off a little bit. So again, I'm applying light to slightly moderate pressure. Clean the surface here. Let me pick it up. I'm not applying force. Corners look really good. Okay. I'm just going to wipe the edges a little bit, make sure there's no cardboard sticking on the side. Then I will get my penny sleeve. Looks good. And my card saver. Cool. Looks perfect. I've probably only got 5 or 10 minutes here left in the stream. I appreciate you guys joining me. Maybe a corner shoot with this. That looks pretty good though. Don't know if you can tell. Yeah, the upper right hand corner. It just catches the light in just the wrong way, where it makes it kind of makes it look bent. Maybe it's not bent, but it makes it look bent. Either way, I don't think it'll work. And we have our LEs. That looks pretty clean. And if I haven't mentioned it already, you want really strong light. I have 3, 4 lights on these cards. You want very strong light so you can look at it from a bunch of different angles in the light. Then dim the lights, check outside of that. I've kind of already done that process with these. But you want to look at stuff in a whole bunch of different light, as many lights as you can find, strong lights. I have one here, one here. This one's whiter, this one's yellow. Yeah, highly recommend. Although I have, you know, looked at stuff under these lights and stuff, and then I take them into the card shop, and then under the card shop, just regular lights, you see stuff you didn't see under the big ones. So it always helps to get a whole bunch of glances. All right, we have 2 more here to inspect. Then I'll take a look at my final ones and choose 5 to send in. And part 2 video will be about how to actually submit to PSA and then ship them. This was more about just identifying the cards you want to send in, what cards you want to try to send in, and then of course what to look for when cleaning and inspecting. And again, you want to look at edges, corners, centering. Of course, any surface issues, scratches. Yeah, this had 2 kind of watermarks right underneath the knob of his bat. And they're still there. So that's not going to work. Surface issues. See if I can zoom in. You can kind of see right under his hand there in the bat, silver dots. All right, and then our last one here. This one at the very top. Okay, so I'm going to get a brand new penny sleeve. And sometimes you can feel grit when you slide the card into the penny sleeve. And if that happens, get a new penny sleeve. Take it off, clean it, wipe it off again, get a new penny sleeve. Okay. So, like I said, my submission is going to be about 5 cards. So, taking a look here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards. So, of course, the first thing I'm going to look at is like rarity and value. So, like, this is a cool silver pack card, but it's not numbered. It's not a parallel. It's just a silver pack. This is numbered to 75. It's of one of the best rookies. This is just a common insert. It is cool and it looks super clean. He's one of the best rookies, but it's just a random insert. So I'd say out of these 3, I'd go Wyatt Langford 1, Jackson Merrill 2, and Ellie 3. Shohei, this is red. This is to 50. Of course, in his 50-50 year, so that's going to inherently be a bit more valuable there. So that's probably a big boy. I'm going to set Shohei aside. He's going in. Jose Perdomo. So this came out of a mega box, so this is not his first, but it is an auto of one of the best prospects in baseball. That's going to be a big card of a gem, so I'm going to put that aside. He's a lesser-known prospect, but the card itself is a monster. It's a first of a blue reptile parallel auto, first to 150. It's a monster of a card, and that would be huge in a PSA 10. Then the big boy, of course, the Paul Skeens to 75 green space dust out of Cosmic. My very first big pull, the card that got me in love with Cosmic. So that's going in as well. That's going to be a big card, and that's going to be a higher price to pay when we do part 2. It'll be more expensive to grade that card than it will these other ones. And then we have our 89 or our 35th anniversary throwbacks, or 89s. We have the blue ones and Caminero and Ellie and Jackson Holiday, and then we have the Chrome 89. So I said I wanted to send in 5. We have Shohei, Perdomo, Beltre, Skeens, and so I'd pick another one out of these ones. I'd probably go with the Langford. So that's going to be my 5, which means that maybe my next submission would be these other ones, because these all look really clean. I'm just going to set these aside. That way, if I do decide to send them in, they're all ready to go. I hope you found this valuable. I will put out part 2 here sometime either this week or early next week about how to set it up on the PSA website and get them all packed up for shipping, all that kind of good stuff. So thanks for joining me today. Happy collecting, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget our stream. We have breaks every Friday. We have a break this Friday opening up a jumbo hobby box of Series 1, a hobby box of Series 1, and a hobby box of Archives. That's for $21 a spot, random teams. We also have our big break coming up in which we open up Pristine and Bowman's Best in Series 1. It's $50 a spot coming up on the 14th of March. So check that out. That's going to be a really fun one. Get your spots while you can. I appreciate you. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.